Hi everyone, Bobbie LaPorte here again with this week's Let's Get Growing tip, where I help you take charge of your plans and accelerate your initiatives as you head into the end of this year. So here we are now with the pandemic and sheltering in place, moving into month 7. Did any of us ever imagine when this began last March that we'd still be in this mode 7 months later, and it looks like continuing in this mode for a while? I remember when it was 40 days into sheltering in place, and I was thinking, when is the ark going to show up? So I'm hearing from many of you about the fatigue and weariness that is settling in, and that people on your team want to know when this will end. And they want things to go back to normal, whatever that means for them. Well, I think we all recognize that the normal we were living in before is never going to return. It's part of adapting to change. And I can tell you that this change we're experiencing is unlike any change we've experienced in the past. All change is difficult, but this change in particular is challenging because it's broad, it's structural, and it's ever shifting, and much of it is likely permanent. So how do you help your teams adapt to permanent changes in how they work and how they live, and also see this as a time of possibility? Well, we know from neuroscience that our brains default to the negative when we're anxious, fearful, and uncertain. We also know that the antidote to this negative, fearful state is to arouse positive emotions in others. And when we do that, that activates the part of our brain that promotes creativity, problem solving, and inspiration, but probably most importantly, helps us see what is possible. There's many ways to do this, and we've pointed those out in some of the previous tips. So how do you create a bridge between these two differing points of view? The one that wants to go back to what was normal versus the one that knows you need to embrace permanent change. Well, here's my tip. When people are going through major change, they need to have a connection point from the past, which is comfortable and familiar to them, to where you need them to go. So one way to do this is to remind them of the successes you've had as a team in the past, the core values and the strengths of the organization, those things that can be sustained and will take them forward through the change. So what you're doing here is you're reaching back to the past to highlight what's good and useful, and what you can sustain and bring forward, even as you're creating a new story about the future. That is the critical through line that people need to see to move to the future, to see what's possible. So that's my Get Growing tip of the week. I'll see you next Monday. And please remember to see this as a time of possibility, as an enabler, not as a liability or a time to pause, waiting for certainty to return. All right, everyone, have a productive week and take care of yourself.